Knowledge for Men, Episode 9.
Welcome to knowledgeformen.com, interviewing the most successful and inspiring people to give you real-world advice to rise above the odds, live a life of purpose, reach your full potential, and become the man you were born to be. And now, your host, Andrew Farabee.
All right, we're going to kickstart the show off with a review of the week. And today's winner, I Am Lewis. His title, Wealth of Great Information. His review, I normally don't listen to podcasts, but this one has sucked me in. The interviews are amazing. The content is superb. And I feel a bit smarter after listening to each episode of KnowledgeForMen.com's podcast. Thank you, Andrew, for putting in the hard work, bringing valuable content to the marketplace. And like TED Talks, I rewatch them frequently. I know I'll be listening to these podcasts over and over. Thank you, I Am Lewis. And for all the reviews out there, thank you so much. We actually have hit over 100 reviews. So thank you guys for your support, the listeners. If you like the content you're hearing, well, write a review. It adds value to the podcast. It helps its growth. And if you've already written a review, please subscribe. I just post on Monday morning and Wednesday morning, just 2 a week. All right, let's start the show. Here we go. Let's do this, guys. Stay with me. We can do this. Let's make our dreams come true. Let's go. I'm here with Greg S. Reid, entrepreneur, motivational speaker, filmmaker, best-selling author, and the CEO of several successful companies. He's been published in over 42 books, 19 languages, and over a dozen bestsellers. Greg, I'm really happy to have you on the show.
Thank you. The crowds go wild.
Greg, I love the energy. Let's go ahead and kickstart the show with a favorite success quote of yours and why.
Favorite one that comes to mind is my mentor, Charlie Tremendous Jones. And he said, "We are the same today as we'll be in 5 years, except for two things: the people you meet and the books you read. It's who you hang out with. It's what you put in your head that determines your character as a person." So in high school, if you hung around the smokers, you're a smoker. If you hung around the jocks, you're a jock. If you hang around people that complain, gripe, and moan, that's who you are. If you hang around champions just like you, young man, then that's what you become.
That is so true. You are a product of your environment. Who you hang out with will determine who you will become. Your surroundings will have an influence on you, whether you like it or not. Okay, Garrick, go ahead and tell us about yourself and what you do.
I'm an author, speaker, filmmaker, live here in the mean streets of La Jolla, California. And I mean, that's pretty much the life I live.
So you're a speaker, best-selling author, and filmmaker. You've achieved quite a lot. Can you share with the audience your journey and how you got started with what you do?
What happened is I did a presentation at a local university, and for some reason it went over pretty good. And then they passed me around to all the different campuses. And then one kid came up one time and says, "I like your talk. You should write a book." And I thought, I've never read a book, so that'd be a good goal. So I dedicated my life to make that happen. I went to Barnes & Noble, bought all the bestsellers. I called up those people and said, "Hey, will you teach me?" They did. And here we are 48 books later in 30 countries and all that good stuff, simply because one person planting a seed of inspiration.
Greg, you make it sound so simple. You went out and just bought the books from the best people in the industry. Then you called them up and they were happy to help you out.
Well, yes, understand this, that the most successful people are also the most available people. And people find that hard to believe, but it's true. If you're brand new at something, you're pretty happy-go-lucky, you're fresh, you're new, you got nothing to prove. If you're at the pinnacle, the top of your field, you're happy-go-lucky. You don't need to prove anything. It's the people that are in the middle that can be kind of a pain in the neck sometimes because they're filled with ego. They're edging God out. They're finding their own voice. So I realized that if I want something, I just jump to the front of the line and surround myself with the people who are already doing what I want to do. And that's how I became an international best-selling author. When I wanted to be a speaker, I hung out with Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Dennis Whaley, Charlie Tremendous Jones, Les Brown. I just went right to the people that are getting the results we want. And here we are today.
There's a big lesson there. It's when you want something, you want to surround yourself with the people who already have the results that you want. You want to surround yourself with the right people, the people who are striving to be more and do more. And Greg, you simply put yourself in the best possible situation by hanging out with the experts in the industry. And that is true. It's the most successful people are the most available people. It's how I've been able to get so many awesome people on my podcast so far, guys like you.
Absolutely. And people say, well, why did you build this relationship? And this is really simple is I honored them. And here's how. So if when I went to, Les Brown and said, hey, man, I want to be a great speaker like you. Give me one nugget of something I should do. Well, they would give me that nugget and I would leave and actually apply that wisdom. I'd go back a month later and say, hey, I met you a month ago. I asked for a nugget. You gave it to me. Here's my results. What should I do next? Well, the chance of them giving me the next highlight is 100% because I actually followed through and honored their, critique, their counsel, their wisdom by doing something with it. And I realized that that's the secret. I mean, it's not like secret sauce, but that is the secret. It's actually following through and doing something.
That is so true. And Greg, what do you think is preventing guys from doing that, from following through, from making those calls and taking action?
Commitment level. There's a big difference between being committed and being interested in something. For example, if you're going to go open up a new hot restaurant downtown because it's the trend, as soon as there's challenges, you might fold the tent and because you say, hey, I give it a shot. If you took over your family's Italian restaurant, 8 generations, when you have challenges, you might find a way, anything to make it come to life because you don't want to throw in the towel because your goal is to pass it on to your next kids. So the difference is that commitment level. And if we're not committed and we're only interested, chances are, again, we'll quit when the going gets tough.
So the difference is the level of commitment one has on their goals. Are you interested in becoming successful or are you committed to becoming successful? And I think that has a lot to do with passion. Greg, what do you have to say about the people who believe that you can only do work you're passionate about versus doing work solely for the money?
Okay, I'm probably going to be the weirdest motivational guy in this thing, but I think following your passion, the money follows is a complete lie. And I think it's fake, and I think it's a bunch of crap. So that's my honest opinion, and I'll tell you the reason why. I watch American Idol, and I see these kids full of passion, but most of them stink. Just because you're passionate about something and you stink at it, you're not going to be successful. Life doesn't work that way. So the realities are you got to do something called a success equation. You got to combine your passion with your talent. You need to take action with the right association and have the faith that that's your journey and you have a shot. It's like anything else. I call it P plus T times C squared plus F is success. And that's all it comes down to. Because if you're the most passionate singer, but you stink, you'll never make it. But if you're the most passionate singer and you had talented, a God-given gift, you got a shot. But if you don't take action with that, you'll never make it. But if you've took action, but you don't know anyone, you only sing in the shower or dive bar, chances are you won't make it. But if you associate with someone in the industry who can open up the doors and have the faith that that's the quest you're destined for, well, that's where it all really starts coming together. And I find out the most successful people I've interviewed, they've done that equation whether they knew it or not.
Okay, let's clear this up. So passion alone will not make you successful. Okay. But discovering what you're talented at along with your passion will give you the best chance at success as long as you take massive action and surround yourself with successful people to propel you forward. Okay, I'm sure somewhere along your journey, Greg, you took a lot of action and failed. Can you share with the audience a major challenge you've experienced and how you overcame that?
Well, that's on a daily basis. I mean, people ask why I write about 3 feet from gold, about not quitting before the finish line, or I did this new book, Stickability, and why it's about perseverance. The truth is, I'm a quitter. I mean, I'm the greatest quitter you've ever met. I've quit sales, I quit marketing, I quit my marriages, I quit everything. And so I wanted to go on a journey I needed help with the most. And I went knees to knees with the most powerful and influential people of our time to find out how they persevered and not threw in the towel. And from there, I started applying, just like we were talking about earlier, those wisdoms. And I can honestly say that I'm no longer a quitter. I learned how to quit quitting. And by doing so, now I'm creating books and projects and movies and things that are inspiring people around the world.
Yeah, I think that if people just never quit, they could go so much further and achieve so much more in life. But perseverance and the ability to push through the hard, tough, depressing times when it seems like all hope is lost can be extremely hard. So Greg, on your journey of interviewing some of the most successful people on the planet who overcame impossible odds, can you share with the audience some of the biggest lessons you've learned?
I'll tell you a little story. See, there's this guy named Napoleon Hill who wrote a classic book called Think and Grow Rich. He was commissioned by the richest guy in the world in 1908 to meet the most powerful people at that time. Well, 100 years later, in 2008, the president and CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation given me kind of like the same letter and asked me to follow in his footsteps, where I have a chance to meet everyone from the inventor of the string theory to the guy building the elevator to space, from the founder of Chick-fil-A restaurants to the president of NASCAR, from the guy who built the cell phone to the guy who started the X Prize. And I get to go and talk to these folks to find out what they did to persevere through their most challenging moments. And that's what this project and what my life has been dedicated to.
So, Greg, you are the modern day Napoleon Hill. Can you share with the audience what are some of your key takeaways you've learned from your journey?
Well, for myself, one of the greatest interviews I did was with a guy named Marty Cooper. And Marty Cooper invented something we use every day, which is the modern day cell phone, which I mentioned earlier. I asked him, I says, what does stickability mean to you? And he said, it has to be parallel flexibility. I kind of got those backwards. And it was so interesting because I thought it was true. It seems like every one of these great leaders understood you have to be flexible and adaptable to have stickability, meaning stickability is your goal. It's your prize. It's what you have your eye on. And you got to have a mission to get there, but you can't be so caught up in exactly how it's going to happen. So if I want to get to the end of the street and that's my goal, I got to get off my backside and take action. I got to move towards that direction. But where a planner is going to plan every step, where they're going to pause, where they're going to take a break, leaders look for opportunity. Like, did a kid leave a skateboard or a bicycle out? He goes, if I get real lucky, I'll wave down a neighbor and hitch a ride to the end of the street. We have the stickability, the focus, we'll get what we want, but we're not so caught up in exactly how it has to happen.
Yeah, things aren't always going to go as planned. You have to be flexible, adaptable, and stay focused on the end goal rather than the micro details of how you're going to get there. So, Greg, can you share with the audience a time when you had to adapt on your journey? Were you being paid to do what you do? Were you being sponsored?
Well, yes and no and yes. I mean, the realities is I was on my own nickel, but I enlisted the help of other people. I got sponsors. I created a mastermind, and we went on this journey. And, when you write a book, you get it in advance from a major publisher. And I got to tell you, I don't do this journey for the money. I do it for the passion. And I really do for myself, because that's the first part. That's the P. My talent is I'm really good at communicating, and I like public speaking. So I take action with the right association by becoming a public speaker, talking about these great interviews. And from there, I seem to get paid quite a handsome wage to go do presentations. So, the book is basically a lost leader. There's not a lot of money in books, people. Let me be a big bearer of bad news, but it's a great door opener. It's a great resource to leverage relationships, to get to know these people, and then more importantly, bigger and better things down the line.
I like how you're doing something you like to do, and with massive action, you're able to find a way to make money doing what you want to do. It's something not a lot of people are able to do in their life. They don't believe that they can actually do this. So, Greg, when did you have your aha moment in your life when you realized that personal development exists and you can improve as a person by reading books, attending seminars, and taking action?
Yeah, probably for myself was like most people. I've read all the books. I've read all the, listened to the CDs. And I realized I need more motivation, like a hole in the head. All I need to do is start applying all the stuff I already know. And someone said something to me, was brilliant. It says, if you put a mirror in front of you and you were going to coach that person, what would you tell them to do? And I said, well, it's opposite that I'm doing. And he goes, exactly. So the secret is start becoming your own mentor. And that was the aha moment for me. I said, man, I'm going to start living the life that I would teach other people to do. I start living the principles. And rather than going around telling people how great you are and this guru stuff, I kept it really real. It says, look, I'm a quitter. I quit. I've given up. I've gone through this stuff. And so I get it from a very humble, realistic perspective. And I think that's why people like my projects, because it's not written about me. It's written about us. It's written about mankind. And it's told in a very humanistic viewpoint.
Yeah, Greg, I'm really glad you brought this up. People spend so much time reading and learning to the point where it becomes some sort of addiction. It's really important to take the knowledge you're learning and start applying and start getting results in the real world. And you're right. It gets to a certain point where the books become repetitive. You begin to hear the same thing over and over again in books, in seminars, in articles, on YouTube videos, because it's not about learning everything first. It's about doing, taking action, and learning along the way, learning on your journey, on your path. I know it's going to be tough. I know it's scary, but it's what you need to do. And it's really time to look at yourself in the mirror and live the life you would teach others to live. And Greg, this leads to your best-selling book, 3 Feet from Gold. Can you share with the audience what it's about, the key takeaways, and how it can help them keep going through the hard times?
Yeah, Three Film Gold was the first commissioned project from the Napoleon Hill Foundation. It's based on R.U. Darby, a gold miner who goes out west. He starts digging and discovers a couple nuggets. He goes home and he tells his family and friends what he discovered, and they chip in money to buy equipment to pull it out by the truckload. The first ore cart comes out and it's filled with gold, and they thought he's rich, right? But then the gold ran out. He kept digging, but there was no more gold. Defeated, Darby walks out of the mine and says, "I quit. I'm done. I give up on this mining business." He sees a junk man walking by, says, "Hey, give me $200. I'll sell you this mine and all the equipment. I'm going back home." The junk man, realizing the equipment was worth thousands because everyone chipped in the money, said, "Of course, you got a deal." And Darby goes home defeated. But the junk man goes to a local engineer and says, "What happened? This Darby character hit gold and ran out." The engineer starts laughing. He goes, "Everyone knows that gold runs in a straight line. It's called a gold vein. What Darby did is he came in one side through the dirt, hit the gold, and pop back into dirt." He goes, "Just go back to where they discovered treasure, go 90 degrees, 3 feet the opposite direction, and you'll tap back into the vein." Not only did he pull millions and millions of dollars out, but that's what fills Fort Knox today. And the moral was, how many times have we or someone we know quit one class short from a degree or sales or marriage or marketing or whatever? It's easy to quit. So I interview people to find out what they did to keep going. And I got to tell you, it was an absolutely amazing journey.
Greg, I know this really resonates with my audience. You worked so hard on a project and then quit before you reached the level of success you wanted. You have to keep going. I urge everyone listening to remember this. And whatever you're going through right now, the stress, the lack of money, the hard times, the sacrifice, it will pay off. You must stay on your path and purpose in life. Don't give in to the easy way out. And most importantly, don't give up. So, Greg, what were some of the biggest lessons you learned when working on the 3 Feet from Gold project?
Well, everyone had a different story, but the same outcome. Again, first there's a dream, then there's a challenge, and then there's victory. All of us quit through the challenge. No one gets an opportunity to get to the victory because we give up too soon. The first person they asked me to interview was Dave Lineker. I think I told you this story before. He wanted to get into real estate back in 1970, the other economic collapse, and all of his investor money ran out. He was broke. He says, for 2 years, every phone call that came in was from a bill collector. He says, I was so embarrassed when the phone would ring, I'd run across the hall and pick it up so my secretary wasn't put on the spot. Said the third year they put me in jail, calling me a fraud and a liar. And I said, what'd you do? He says, I took my attitude from trying to prove the world wrong to prove myself right. He says, I called every bill collector and says, look, all the money's gone. I don't have nothing, but I don't got 50 grand I owe you, but I got $50. I'll send it to you with the promise I'm not going to quit. Just don't give up. And he says, I called every bill collector every single month until the fourth year someone believed in him and bought the first business, and that's called the Remax Real Estate. He goes, I'm nothing. But how much money in transactions would have never transpired if I would have given up? And how do we know that someone listening to this podcast isn't about to give up on their dream because Visa is calling them right now?
What a powerful story from the founder of Remax. The lesson there, you have to keep going. You have to keep moving forward. Persistence is the key. And I'm sure working on 3 Feet from Gold wasn't an easy task. What are some of those key takeaways you learned when you published 3 Feet from Gold?
Probably the realization that even the rocket scientists I interviewed are not rocket scientists. I mean, people are people. And everyone seems to have the common denominator. You know, we all have a dream, we all have a journey, and we have the struggles, and just most people give up. And Napoleon Hill had a greatest quote. He says, our greatest success always comes just one step beyond our greatest setback. So it seems like most people that have their greatest, leaping forward are the people that were wit's end. They're at the lowest point in life. So when we find ourselves beaten and crushed, that's good news. That's usually right when the miracle happens. But unfortunately, most people run and hide.
That quote really resonates with me. I need to repeat that. It's from Napoleon Hill. Our greatest success will always come just one step beyond our greatest setback. Wow, that's really powerful, and it's very true. So many people will go the mile. They will go the distance, but they hit that setback and everything comes crumbling down. When if they would just persist a little bit further, they would hit that gold mine. And this actually brings up the book Outwitting the Devil by Sharon Lechter about fear and how fear is used to control us. What is preventing people from taking action? Why are people hiding, Greg?
Oh yeah, and Sharon Lechter really, as you know, goes to town on the fear aspect of it, and it's fear of, Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. The biggest chapter was called "The Six Ghosts of Fear," and what he talked about back in the early 1900s was like the fear of loss of love, the fear of death, the fear of old age. And I think today it's a little bit more modern. It's the fear of pain, it's the fear of loss, it's the fear of judgment, it's the fear of the unknown, so to speak. So I believe people have a fear of success, they have a fear of failure. And the realities are that fear is only man-made because everyone wants us to succeed. That's the bottom line. And we're the people that are our biggest stumbling blocks. I've realized that majority of the people, everyone's going to have negative naysayers no matter what you do. No matter how great of a thing you do, people will be negative. You're going to get negative naysayers. So if we buy into that, well, then chances are we're never going to have our success. And one of the great interviews of the guy who invented string theory told me something. He says, successful people seek counsel where failures listen to opinion. And I said, what's the difference? And he says, opinions based on ignorance, lack of knowledge, inexperience. They just never did it. Like if you go to family, friends and say, I'm going to write a book and they've never done it, they might say, you can't do that. Why not? I don't know. You just can't. Well, that's their judgment because they don't know. If I go to Mark Victor Hansen and seek counsel based on wisdom, knowledge, experience, mentorship, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul and say, I want to write a book like you. What should I do? Well, he's going to give me counsel based on knowledge and he's already done it. And John Schwartz said, if we would spend our daily lives only seeking counsel and ignoring these people's opinions, your life would change at that moment. So I've dedicated my life. I don't listen to anyone's opinion.
Yeah, opinions are merely opinions. They aren't facts. This brings up a popular quote. Most people are other people. Their thoughts are someone else's opinions. Their lives, a mimicry. Their passions, a quotation. Oscar Wilde. Other people's opinions can really destroy your goals and dreams. You have to believe in yourself and do what you want to do. And Greg, how have you applied these lessons into your everyday life?
I hang out with people that are uplifting, positive. Don't hang out with a bunch of crapheads. I mean, the harsh realities are I might talk to somebody who has an opinion about something and I will go golfing and play poker with them, but I'm not going to ask my business advice to those people. Why would I put my success in the hands of people that don't know what they're talking about? Would you put some guy who's never flown a plane in charge of flying your plane? Of course not. But that's what we do for some reason. It's absolute insanity.
When you put it that way, it makes so much more sense. People need to believe in themselves and take massive action while surrounding themselves with the right people who know what they're doing. Just because someone has an opinion doesn't mean they're the expert. You need to seek counsel from the right people who have the results you want in life. And now, Greg, we've entered the knowledge round. Get ready.
Oh, come on. I was born ready, brother. Let's do this.
Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guest will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Showtime!
Greg, what key pieces of advice would you give to someone who wants to become successful?
Success is not deemed by money. Success is deemed by living a purpose-filled life. There's a lot of nurses, there's firemen, there's policemen, there's a lot of people that are living a very successful life, but it's not deemed by money. It's finding what you're meant to be doing on this big spinning rock and then pursuing it with everything you got.
I like it. What was holding you back from becoming the entrepreneur, the author, the filmmaker that you are today?
Nothing held me back. The moment that I realized that I could do it, I did it. I mean, I was crazy enough as a kid that my mom told me that I could do anything that I put my mind to it. And I was wild enough to believe she was right. So, when I have an idea to, write a book, I did it. When I want to make a movie, I did it. When I want to do a clothing line, I did it. Whatever. It doesn't make a difference. I go do it. And the way that I do it is I get started. I don't wait for the perfect time. I mean, the timing will never be just right. The moment I think about it, I take action. And then I look for people that are experts in their field to guide and mentor me along the way.
That is the key. Overwhelm your thinking mind with action and just start the thing already.
It's funny. Just recently, my wife and I went to Africa and climbed and summited Mount Kilimanjaro. And you and I live here in San Diego. I'm not going to ask some surfer dude how to get up Kilimanjaro. I'm going to go to Africa and find the Sherpa that have climbed it 400, 500, 600 times. I'm going to hire them. Wherever they put their boot print, I put my boot print. Again, it's not rocket science. The whole idea is surround yourself with people that are getting the results you want.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Greg, what's the best advice you've ever received from a mentor?
Brian Tracy gave me the greatest little thing. I said, what's it like being you? And he looks at me and said, that's a great question, but more importantly, what's it like being you? I said, what do you mean? And he goes, the challenge is when most speakers, when they get started, they want to emulate and be like Tony Robbins or myself or Les. He goes, the secret is just be yourself. And he goes, when you were a kid, your mom would tell you, just be you and people will love you. And I realized that's true. As soon as I got rid of the canned speeches and just had dialogue like we're having right now, where I mess up my words and I'm just a normal guy. I realized that I started attracting the right people and people that would resonate with my message because we're very real. So I think that was one of the greatest takeaways I've ever had.
Be you, be yourself, be your authentic self, love yourself. It's very powerful and so true. Greg, what are some of your most influential books and why?
I'm going to go with my favorite all-time book has got to be The Ultimate Gift by Jim Stovall. I just love that book. It's a great story on mentorship and leadership told in a parable. It's one of the only books I've ever read from beginning to end without stopping. And I was crying like a schoolgirl at the end, which I don't do. But it was just such an emotional thing where I could relate to it. After that, I would say the Ken Blanchard books, Gung Ho, Start Raving Fans, things of that nature. Just extremely motivational, inspirational, but it's also practical and pragmatic. That's what I'm into. I like to get to the nuts and bolts of things. I don't want to talk about the hypotheticals, the what ifs. I really like it when people give me the actionable steps.
All right, I'll have to check out The Ultimate Gift by Jim Stovall, Gung Ho, and Raving Fans by Ken Blanchard. You guys, you can actually get those books for free if you go to kfmbook.com. Knowledge for Men has partnered with Audible. It's an Amazon audiobook company, and you guys can go ahead and download those books and get them for free. And yeah, it's that easy. kfmbook.com. Check it out, guys. And back to the questions. Greg, what's one action one person can take right now that would get them closer towards their dreams?
Make a list of the people that you spend the most time with and realize, like you said earlier, that you're a reflection of those people. And if you don't like it, change those people.
You are the average of the 5 people you spend your most time with. Jim Rohn, a classic quote that can save your life or ruin it. Okay, Greg, I got a scenario for you. Are you ready?
I love it.
Imagine you woke up and you were 20 again. What would you do and how would you do your life differently?
I'd comb my hair because I don't have any today. So if I was 22, I'd still have some hair. So that's probably the first thing. And if I had the wisdom that I know today, I would seek a mentor and counsel from somebody who was the ultimate expert in whatever I wanted to do. So for example, when I was that age, as soon as I got into the workforce, I went into sales because I wanted to become a marketing sales guy. And I didn't go in and say, hey, put me in the trainee booth. I said, who's driving that Ferrari? And I put me next to their desk because that's who I wanted to learn from. And every single thing I've ever done is I made sure that I surround myself with the top leaders in that field. So what I would do is duplicate that success, but I do it in a super higher level.
And the theme that you're giving us throughout this entire podcast is surround yourself with the right people who are getting the results that you want. You can shortcut your way to success and reduce the amount of trial and error and frustration if you seek counsel and mentorship from those that are already there. I really love the whole theme that you've given us for this podcast, Greg.
Yeah, well, but think about it. If I was going to learn how to play golf, wouldn't you want to learn from the best golfer? If when I want to talk about my accounting, I don't want to ask some knucklehead that works down at H&R Block. No offense. I want to go to the top person. And I realized that that's the only thing I do differently today that I should have done a little bit earlier, because the most successful people really are the most available. And I didn't learn that until my mid-30s. But so if there's one thing I could have done a little bit earlier, is I would have reached up and reached out to the top people just a little quick sooner.
Very true. Greg, we're getting a little deep now. If you had to write your obituary today, what would it say?
It's probably say author, speaker, filmmaker, but more importantly, a great dad. I mean, I love being a father. I love having my new kid. I mean, it's absolutely amazing experience. I'm a late in life guy. I had no idea at 50 years old I'd be having my first kid, and it's been just an amazing experience. So I like to make sure that I leave a good little legacy for him so that he can learn from his old man later on when he gets a little bit older in life.
Yeah, I could see that. Family man. And getting deeper. Greg, what is your philosophy on life?
It's real simple. All I want in life is to give my life my all. All I want in life is to give my life my all. That's it. It's like leave it all on the field. I mean, there's a clock going right now and there's no takebacks. I look at it and that's so strange, but it's very real. I really want to honor the people that have died for my right to have the freedoms that I have today. You know, how many people have died in wars and protected our nation and have done incredible things to give us our freedoms. And if that person is laying in that foxhole somewhere, knowing that someone was just collecting welfare or doing nothing with their lives, I don't think that would be very inspirational. But for them to know that I'm giving it every single thing I can and living up to every opportunity that they never had the opportunity to do, I feel like I'm honoring the people that have fallen before us.
Yeah, that's definitely so true. Shout out to all the soldiers in uniform.
Amen.
You really have to take advantage of every moment that you have. Thank you for that. And as we come to a close, Greg, can you give the audience some parting piece of guidance?
I'll end with a story. I mean, one of my favorite interviews that I did was with Evander Holyfield, the boxing dude. He won more heavyweight championships than anyone in history. And I said, Evander, what makes you so special? And he looks at me and says, I have a higher standard. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, if you have a car and you don't tolerate it running bad or being dirty, you have a higher standard in a nicer car than your neighbor. He goes, in sports, I showed up early, left late, invented exercises. I had a higher standard and I won more championships. He goes, where could you be outside the ring if you're a pet groomer, stockbroker, insurance sales executive, and you had a higher standard? I said, didn't it hurt being in a fight? He goes, yeah, it hurts. It hurts real bad. But when you're in a fight, you don't focus on the pain. You don't focus on the blows. As soon as you focus on the pain, you end up on your back knocked out. But that's what people do outside the ring. They focus on the gas prices, war, all the punches are taken, and they wonder why they never become a champion. And he pulled me in really tight and he says, the funny thing is when you do win the championship, he says, everyone comes to their feet and they chant your name. They raise your hand in victory and a guy puts a shiny belt around your waist. And at that moment, you don't feel even one of the punches you took along the journey. But the guy in the losing locker room is going to feel every bruise for the rest of their life, wishing they had a higher standard. So for myself, I realized by having just a little bit higher standard, coming in a little bit earlier, leaving a little bit late, giving more than you're asked for, delivering more than you're paid for. To me, that's the difference. And if there's one thing I could recommend and send people is just raise your standard and you'll get the accomplishments accordingly.
And when you become a champion, no one will know how much work you had to put in to get where you are. But if you lose, no one will care. No one will remember your name. So push yourself, raise your standard, and don't settle for less. Just keep going, and just keep fighting forward. Never surrender. So, Greg, as we're wrapping up now, what's exciting you today and what are you currently working on?
Well, from the relationships of doing the last project of Stickability, I am so proud and honored to say that one of the people I interviewed was Frank Shankwitz, founder of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And he has been honored me by giving me the opportunity. I just bought the rights to his screenplay. And so I'm going to actually be a producer on a major Hollywood film called The Wish Man. And the whole idea is it's going to be the story of how the Make-A-Wish Foundation was created. It's one of the greatest iconic brands of all time, making a positive impact in the lives of many. And I've been kind of given a golden opportunity, so to speak, to share it literally with the world.
I think that you're the perfect man to be in that position, Greg.
Thank you. And I'm probably the least qualified, but I'm the best person. I agree with you.
I love it. What's your vision for the future?
I'm not thinking that far down the line because I'm living the life that I always want to live. And I'm looking for those unexpected opportunities. I've kind of hit the pinnacle of my field in writing. I've hit every accomplishment you pretty much can do except for a Pulitzer. So I think I've hit that goal. I've always wanted to make a major Hollywood picture that inspired the millions of people. And I'm working on that now. As you know, I'm an adventurous thrill seeker. So, every other month we go on these crazy adventures from running with the bulls to climbing Kilimanjaro, from cave dwelling to doing jetpacks. So it's kind of neat. So instead of most people having a bucket list, I just go out and live that list. And by doing so, you never have to look back and wonder what you're missing because we're actually doing it all the time.
I love that. That is so powerful. I'm glad I was able to ask that question and you can share that with the audience.
Greg, we're coming to a close. I want to thank you so much for being a part of the show and sharing all the valuable wisdom that you just did. If you want to leave a plug for yourself so the audience can reach you any way in the future, go ahead and do so.
Yeah, just visit my website. It's bookgreg.com. bookgreg.com. Just go to my website and drop me an email. Everything comes right to my cell phone. And if there's anything I can ever do to add contribution to your life in any way, don't be shy. And if there's people that you need to connect with or you have a question, again, just reach out. We're here to be of service any way we can. But please go out and get a copy of Stickability. I mean, Stickability, I really recommend. Think and Grow Rich Stickability is only one of the better books that I've ever been part of, but it's one of the better books I've ever read. And I've got great ghostwriters that have helped me do it, so I can't even take the credit for it. But these stories of inspiration are simply like nothing you've ever heard. Everyone knows the story about Apple computers, but let me explain it to you from Steve Wozniak, the guy who actually created all the stuff, from his perspective. A lot of people know the stories of Chuck E. Cheese, but you don't know the story of a guy wanting to bring a rat into the restaurant business, and everyone said he's crazy. And these stories are absolutely phenomenal.
Greg, thank you so much for being on the show. You've given the audience so much valuable wisdom. I'm so happy to have you on the show. And Greg, I'll be sure to put links to all the books in the show notes on the blog. And for all the listeners also, you can download these books for free if you go to kfmbook.com. Knowledge for Men has partnered with Audible, an Amazon company that produces audiobooks. And yeah, you can go ahead and just download these books for free. Use the URL kfmbook.com and get your free audiobooks. It's that easy. And don't forget to check out knowledgeformen.com. That's knowledge, F-O-R, men.com. And I got a ton of just great free content on there. Tons of articles. You can check out all the other podcast episodes, and there's a lot more information on the blog on each episode. And I do have the Knowledge for Men toolkit. It's dating advice, relationship advice, it's financial freedom advice, how to find your passion advice. And there's just so much valuable content in the Knowledge for Men toolkit. These are ebooks, you guys, rated at over $150 value. Just go to knowledgeformen.com/free tools. And yeah, download all the stuff you'd like and see if you like it. If you don't, give me some feedback. Let's work together. All right, guys, have a great day. Crush life.
Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast show. Now go crush the day, live better, take action, and get the life you've always dreamed of.